I am Dillon Weeks. I play TapeHead, Jacob Cobb in TapeHead, The Return of Jacob Cobb. What drew me to this project was, following up on what we did with the first TapeHead. We immediately rolled into conversations about what can we do next? How do we make it darker, more of a slasher, more 80s style? And we just rolled right into it. Preparing for this role this time around, I wanted to get bigger. I put on quite a bit of weight for the last movie, and I really was pushing myself. For TapeHead, I got to about 215, and then this time around I was about 225. So yeah, I just wanted to be as menacing as possible. A lot of time in the weight room, about 4,000 calories a day, and it packed on. The most challenging scene to film, probably my fight with Anthony. Just the amount of time and effort we put into that. It was hot. We practiced probably 4 hours. We walked through that, choreographed that fight. That was probably the most challenging. Personally, just taking it to that next level. Really, I feel like with this one, I'm kind of setting the bar for what we can do with independent horror and a new icon. Not to call anybody out, but independent horror is really big right now. Art the Clown he's become an icon. Winnie the Pooh, of all people, is an icon, and I just feel like Jacob Cobb could smash those guys. So that's my hot take. Working with the other actors this time, a lot of first timers and new faces. Not a lot of carryover actors from the first movie. I killed them all, so we had a lot of new faces. It was a lot of fun. A lot of support. I was able to kind of not really be a role model, but kind of guide them a little bit, kind of help them through. Hey, this is what we're kind of looking at. This is what the day might be like. Just kind of helping them, and they were all game for it. They were here. They put in a lot of effort, and it was just a lot of fun trying to keep the set lighthearted. I don't want to play favorites, but when Drew Marvick was here, it was really fun to work with somebody that's kind of established. We kind of looked at him as somebody who's, I don't want to say he's made it, but in indie cinema, Pool Party Massacre is pretty successful. He's done a lot of roles in other movies. He was in The Barn 2. To see somebody that's done it before on a bigger scale and kind of see where we could go and where we want to be next, it was a lot of fun to see somebody come in, nail the lines, nail the character, and just work with somebody that I deem a professional. I think the audiences are going to be really surprised by what we could do, especially with the budget that we had. With the first movie, people saw a lot of kind of slapstick. It became, as we edited the movie, a lot of fun and kind of comedic, I guess. So this time around, I think they're going to be in shock. It's dark, more sinister. I think there's going to be some jump scares, some legitimate horror in this one. So I think they'll be surprised. I hope they take it seriously. I hope they see this movie as a place or a movie that holds its place in independent cinema. Like I said, it's really hot right now, low budget, micro budget cinema, and those movies, they're successful. They're gaining an audience with a budget, 10 times what we had, and I think we put a movie out that's on par with them. So I think they'll see that we belong and that we found our place. I think with budget, sometimes they lose some of that drive and that artistic ability. So I think realistically, there's not much that we missed out on. Maybe some bigger effects we could have done with a bigger budget, but overall, I don't think it hurt us. I think we were able to put forth an effort that made a movie stand out without that big multi-million-dollar budget, or even thousands of dollars. I think the only thing would have been more fun to be more destructive. There's a scene where I get to chop through a door with an axe. I think we could have done more breakaway kind of stuff, but those are expensive props, and so I think that's the only real thing that we could have done bigger. Breaking some glass or more doors or walls or something like that. Be more destructive, more chaotic. But I think with what we were able to dial in, I think we pulled off what we wanted to pull off. It definitely lit a fire. With the first one we did just a quick 4-day shoot, pretty much. With this one, it was more scheduled, more organized. I definitely think it showed me what it could be. I think we could do bigger and better, and I'm very proud of this one. But I think it really kind of opened my eyes to where we could go, how far we could take this filmmaking thing. And it definitely made me want to pursue other roles in different projects and expand my horizons. It feels good, it feels a lot different than the short that we did. We set out to make something pretty epic, and I feel like we achieved that. It's definitely more serious. I think I was more committed to it. Not that I wasn't before, but I really wanted to establish Jacob Cobb as, not to sound arrogant, but an icon. I want him to be visible. We've seen people that kind of gave us some coverage and they recognize the character. I think he has his place out there in independent horror. As before, big Friday the 13th fan. I watch a lot of slashers. I think I watched a lot more low-budget slashers, like The Sleeper, for example, just to kind of see some different takes on, I guess, a villain, not necessarily a monster, but yeah, a lot of Friday the 13th, a lot of C.J. Graham stuff, Kane Hodder stuff is very influential with the physical portrayal. When you don't have lines, you have to convey a lot of menace, a lot of threatening stuff with your physical actions, and so I studied a lot of their movements. Emotionally, I really have to get dialed in. I'm a pretty lighthearted guy, so we go from joking between takes, and then I have to really kind of ramp it up and get serious, draw some inspiration from that. And like I said, a lot of it was I'm competitive. I was looking at what other people were doing and that were getting some acclaim, and it kind of, no offense to them, they didn't do it on purpose, but they kind of pissed me off. I want to be where they're at. I want to be more threatening, more menacing. So physically, I had that drive. I wanted to be hulking and intimidating, but it also comes with a lot of being heavier. I noticed that I was a little bit more winded. I'd sweat more. Carrying that extra weight, I think it definitely physically took a bigger toll on me filming than we did from the last movie. So we kind of talked about that before we shot. I had an idea of who Jacob Cobb was as a boy. Misunderstood. He was nice. His family loved him. I just kind of, I took it to a place where he was sympathetic, and then once he'd been wronged the way he had been, then it was just all bets are off. He grew up a nice kid. He was misunderstood. He was bullied. Cliff and Rondo picked on him, and untimely demise came about. So I feel like a lot of that comes into that. He didn't want to be this way. He didn't want to be vicious or malicious, but once he was pushed that far, then there was no turning back. Dustin and I talked a lot, between movies about how we wanted Jacob to be, and some of the physical stuff, some of the intensity and the action, a lot of the movements. We talked a lot about, more aggressive, violent. What you'll see on screen is the result of that. We talked about him being, in the first movie, the mask we had, he was a little more goofy. This mask is scary. We wanted his movements to be scary, sudden, violent, very aggressive, and that kind of played out on the screen. So shout out to CFX Mask for making a fine mask and gloves that we got to wear. There was a yellow contact lenses for close-up shots of Jacob Cobb's eyes, and makeup around the eyes, so we don't see a lot of like my natural skin tone. You want it to look dark like that flesh on the mask. But that was pretty much it. It was a very quick process to get in and out of the mask. With the visor, we modified it so I could actually see this time around. So my movements were more deliberate. I didn't have to stumble and trip and be guided as much. Once I could see through the mask, then I felt like I could be a lot more quick, aggressive. It allowed me to do a lot more things. Like I said, heat again was kind of a factor. We filmed this thing through most of the summer months. The crew was phenomenal about keeping me hydrated. So, I was sweating off pounds of water weight. I think at the busiest weekend, probably our longest shooting weekend, I think it was close to 17 pounds of water weight over about 3 days. From, I think Friday I weighed in about 225, and I think when I weighed myself I was like 207. So whatever that gap is, do the math. But yeah, I lost a lot of weight water-wise, but I was very hydrated. I think everybody did a good job of keeping me hydrated, getting the mask off and on, in a pretty quick fashion to let me kind of cool off and breathe and recover. So yeah, in between, so I'd sweat it out and then basically refuel and eat like a pig and rehydrate throughout the week and get back up for the next weekend of shooting. I didn't really feel the effects of the water weight loss necessarily. I didn't really cramp up or anything like that I thought I might, but no. Exhaustion, at the end of the day you go home and you lay down and your bed feels like the best thing it's ever felt like, and you sleep hard. Just keep it menacing, and I want him to be as scary as possible, and work with Dustin, collaborate, and come up with more intense kills, more physical stuff. With Anthony being he's very fit, but he's light. I could manipulate his body. I could pick him up. We could do some things that really show the strength of Jacob Cobb. Other than just the physical look, I think we could do a lot more to showcase power. Whether it be running through a wall or a door, just push it as far as we could. We can get pretty crazy with it. Whatever Dustin's got going on, and then hopefully somebody picks up the phone or, hits me up on messages. they want to work with me. We've kind of made some good connections. Like I said, Drew Marvick in the movie, he's got a pretty good network. Some indie filmmakers, they're kind of watching what we're doing. So hopefully after this comes out, they'll see, hey, if we need a heavy or we need a villain. Hey, if they make Scream 7, I'll put on a Ghostface mask and be scary. I don't care. I want to do more. Just a quick thank you to a lot of the people that have supported us from day one. A lot of people believed in the first Tapehead and have backed it and are super anxious for this one. Sean Scar up in Canada, Groovy Movie, one of our big backers. Mikey he's got our back. He's always supporting. There's just been a lot of people. Like I said, Drew hit us up and he asked to be in this movie, which still blows my mind that he was here. We hung out and worked with that guy. So yeah, I definitely think some shout outs go out to the people that have really been behind us. There's a longer list. Our families and friends have backed us, and I think with this one we're going to gain a lot more followers.